Hello and welcome to the PGA, or to avoid copyright infringement, the PGPA, the Paladins game patch analysis. I'm your host Kami, and we're accompanied by the lovely
Cassie.
Thank you for that. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that the PGPA is sponsored by
The fastest way to travel is running in slow motion.
Cauterize. Buy it. The newest patch, Sands of Myth, will be hitting us very soon, and we here at the PGPA would like to cover the big changes. These big changes I'm referring to are as follows: the Frog Isle update, kill cam / top play changes, death card and commendations, and lastly balancing. It's a lot to cover, so let's leap into it, starting with Frog Isle. You see what I did there? Whatever. While no big changes are being done to the routes, Frog Isle is receiving a massive visual overhaul. This new iteration is trying to focus on the frog theme. My god, look at this one. Vomiting such vibrant colors. Breathtaking. This one seems to be holding a tub of the vomit above him. And the point you'll be fighting on will have a giant golden frog on the ground, which appears to have Iron Man's heart. Please watch your step. And lastly, they have my fat Aunt Judy. Wow, they really thought of everything with this rework. Personally, a big fan of this aesthetic and can't wait for it to get released. Up next is the changes to kill cam and top play. And when I say changes, I mean they're just taking it out. It turns out these two features were causing a multitude of glitches in the game, so to fix them, they cut them. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you wanted the bugs to be fixed and they did it. But at what cost? Personally, I couldn't give any less f***s that these features were being removed, and I'm always happy to see bugs fixed. Paladins will also be introducing death cards to show up after you kill them to replace the kill cam. It claims to feature unique art pieces and quips. I'm hoping they allow for custom pictures to be uploaded so I can put a blurry picture of my ass. No specific reason, I just find it funny. Paladins is also adding a new way for players to pat each other on the back. They're called Commendations and can be awarded to players during the post-match lobby. You can praise teammates on skills like leadership, teamwork, and skill. They've also added in rewards if you reach a certain amount of commendations. And in case you thought you were going to be slick and abuse this system, they put a cap of the amount of commendations you can do in a day at 8, and you cannot commend the same person in a single day. Oh, and most importantly, users who are banned will have their commendations count reset to 0. I'm sure all those proud and loyal hackers out there will now think twice before toggling on. And before we get into balancing, I forgot that they were actually doing a big thing in removing the ability to purchase champion mastery levels. A lot of people didn't like it because it misrepresented skill, and champion level pretty much meant nothing. You have until up to the patch to purchase levels, but if you hang on to the gold when the new patch comes out, if you have at least 1 million gold, you'll get access to the titles Is a Bot, Live Laugh Frag, Has It All, and the Edgelord. And at 5 million gold, you'll get the 1% title. I'm a little sad by this. I mean, I get why they did it, but when a new champion comes out, I like to buy the first few levels to unlock all the talents. Now I'll actually have to play the champion a little bit. Not cool. Moving on, finally to balance, going alphabetically, we'll be starting with Ashe. Her damage nerf is being reverted, so she'll now do 400 damage with her base shot instead of 360. I was told she felt a little rough to play this patch, so an extra 40 damage is always good. I attempted to catch up with Ashe to get her thoughts on the new buff she's getting next patch. Sadly, she didn't really want to talk and just kept asking me to fight. Barrack received a nerf that I've been waiting for, and that is with double time. It will now only scale at 50 per level instead of 80, and will only last for 3 seconds instead of 4. This card was literally able to heal Barrack 1600 health when no Cauterize was present. Now it's only 750, which is much more reasonable. He's also received nerfs to his field deploy healing station. I feel like those nerfs were a little unnecessary, and it makes me a sad panda. Bomb King is receiving a nerf buff? Nerf? Good God, I've never been so confused in my life. The patch notes read, players were previously able to get increased damage on sticky bomb detonations at the same distance from the target compared to base. Well, considering Royal Subjects increases the radius of your explosions, it sounds like the talent was just doing its job. Disregarding my confusion, Royal Subjects will now have a unique damage fall-off curve. The word around my community is it will indeed be a nerf, but feel free to test it out for yourself. I was unable to contact Bomb King to get his word if this change is a buff or a nerf. He's currently in a heated legal dispute over endangering his own children. It turns out throwing your children at enemies for damage is generally frowned upon. Furio will be receiving a nerf to the talent Cherish, now only gaining 15% bonus healing instead of the 25. I'm sure Furio will do just fine. Grog has received a truckload of changes, some good, some bad. I'll be covering these changes more in depth when the BTS comes out, but here are the main notes. Totem now has 2 charges, and the totem healings can stack. Base healing went from 420 to 250, the cooldown went from 15 seconds to 10, and the base radius from 20 to 28. Ghost walk duration went from 1 second to 2 seconds, the base movement speed from 20% to 50%, and the cooldown from 12 seconds to 15. Spirit's domain will now only heal for 500 a second instead of 900, and Totemic Ward gives a 3rd charge to your totem, along with increasing the healing by 20% 20% instead of the 30% and the CC immunity. There's also a crap ton of loadout card changes, but my tiny brain can't comprehend all of it to make a judgment if it's a nerf or a buff. My guess is a slight nerf to the Maelstrom build and a slight buff to healing? I tried to get an exclusive interview with Grog to get his thoughts on the changes, but he told me, and I quote, "Suck it." Inara has had her unintended damage nerf reverted. She will now be doing 225 per hit instead of the 210 that she's doing right now. Again, tried to get an interview with her, but it didn't go too well. Inara, if you just have 1 second to talk.
You are not welcome here!
Koga has had the talent Adrenaline Junkie nerfed, now requiring 80 damage to regen a point of energy instead of 70. This nerf felt unneeded, as this was also accompanied by the following nerfs. Trigger Happy reduced healing from 10% per level to 5%, Surprise Dash Ammo generation from 6 to 5, Tenacious Shadow Step heal from 60 to 40, and most importantly Memento now only giving 5 ammo per level instead of 10. I expected the nerf to Trigger Happy and Memento, but not the others. We'll have to see how he feels after all these nerfs. Maeve received a slight nerf to the card Predation. The card that reduces the cooldown of her prow will still give the cooldown per dagger, but only works against players, not shields and deployables. It still seems like a crazy good loadout card with the talent Cat Burglar, but at least they nerfed it in some way. Mokou is finally getting a numbers fix on the shell shield, so the card Barrier Reef can now properly proc twice if you max out the other loadout card, Carapace. Half shell meta, here we come. His buff will also be seeing a nerf in the form of a 1000 HP decrease when he ults, now only granting him a bonus of 4000 HP. Considering he's CC immune at the base of the ult, 4000 HP seems like more than enough. Maldamba is seeing his gourd healing reverted back to 60 per tick from the current 45. Maldamba was actually very excited to interview with me, but he told me over the phone that his snake liked me. I personally am terrified of snakes, and if he meant something else, well, I prefer the thick boys. Rom is receiving some well-deserved nerfs. This menace is running around in my games without a care in the world, having 75% damage reduction, infinite sprinting, all while contributing to Hell's global warming every time he reloads. It's disgusting. Luckily, he'll now only have a 50% damage reduction with the Enforcer talent, and his charge will only travel 245 units while only hitting for 600, all slightly nerfed. Pushing past my hate for the champion, and being a hero for the people, I was able to sit down with Rom for an incredibly short interview, and this is what he had to say.
You guys suck.
Ceres will now be getting a shorter cooldown on her heal. Yes, now 1.5 seconds instead of the 2. It feels much closer to what it used to be. Other than the wild allegations of her throwing specific people into the abyss, I'm okay with these changes. Shaolin is receiving a buff to his bow. His minimum projectile speed of the arrow went from 120 to 300, and they reduced the base gravity scaling of the arrows from 3 to 0.8. This will make landing a non-fully charged shot extremely easier. I actually caught Shaw in the locker room right before this broadcast, and he had this to say. Sky lovers are in turmoil after hearing about the nerfs coming to her. Her talent Smoke and Dagger will no longer give the 1 second extra duration, and the healing with the talent went from 200 to 150. On top of that, her card Dissipate, the movement speed when she enters the smoke, will now only last for 2 seconds instead of the 3 seconds. A sad day indeed for the folks rooting for the underdog. I wanted to sit down with Sky to get her thoughts, but sadly, I couldn't find her.
Bullseye, got him! Alright, back to it!
Terminus got knocked down a peg with some nerfs to his power siphon charging, reducing the siphon charge from the Blood and Stone, the one with the Shatterfall, from 10 to 6, and Abomination, the one where he charges with his Calamity Blast from 3 to 2%. Both seem necessary to prevent Terminus having infinite siphon. I had a quick chat with Terminus, and he just had this to say.
Please, let me die.
He seems pretty torn up about it, but he's still a solid pick in my book. Tiberius will now have a reduced lockout when using Blade Dance, his ultimate. He's also receiving a slight nerf to Bragging Rights, the healing per chakram hit from 25 to 15, and Hone Senses, the one that gives him ultimate charge while in his trance from 0.8% per level to 0.6%. I don't really feel like Tiberius is overwhelming whatsoever, and I do love kitties. I'm neutral about this change. Torvald has also received a nerf, but in the most absurd way possible. They decided to nerf Torvald's base shield to 500, and at first I was ecstatic. Well, I still am. Torvald can suck a d. But what this does is essentially give Torvald one talent choice. Thanks, Grandpa. To be fair, Direct Current was rarely getting used, but 500 shield doesn't seem worth it for field study. While seeing less Torvalds will make me happy, the nerf to limit Torvald's talent choice to just one makes me less happy. Ging is getting her illusion healing nerfed from 420 to 400. Rumor is Hi-Rez was tired of the stoner jokes. And lastly, Zen got hit rather hard with the nerf stick. The talent Guillotine will no longer grant damage immunity, and Smolder now only heals for 15% per second instead of 25. This will definitely reduce the annoyingness of Zen quite a bit, and most people welcome that. But what this will ultimately do to Zen in the meta is yet to be seen. Well, that wraps up everything for today. We were not able to cover everything in this video, so if you want to know more, there's a link in the description of the full patch notes. This has been your host, Kami.
Oops, I broke out.
Can I get a new co-host? From everyone here at the PGPA, we'd like to thank you for watching, and have a great night.
Thanks a bunch.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm not gonna be one of those people who asks you to like and subscribe, so... I'm not gonna ask.